Hey guys, Rob from Georgia here with you. It is week number 4 already, and this week on a schizophrenic synopsis, almost forgot the name, James and I are going to be looking at a pair of films, and we're going to emphasize the black and white quality, or just the fact that these directors, in both George Miller in terms of Fury Road, the new Mad Max film, and Frank Darabont's alternative vision of maybe his preferred vision of The Mist. James is going to talk more to that, and I'm going to talk more to George Miller's vision and what his ideal vision. So anyway, week 4, schizophrenic synopsis. Here we go. Mad Max. This is my copy. Fury Road. It's the black and chrome edition. What a freaking awesome name, man. Black and chrome. It's just beautiful. Of course, I'm going to try not to speak to The Mist at all, man. That is, last time I think I overstepped my bounds a little bit and might have made things a little more difficult. I don't know, but the black and chrome edition. We're talking 2 directors, 2 visions, both that just dearly love this, just the throwback quality, this abstract notion of putting a film, your vision, into black and white quality. And for George Miller, this goes all the way back to The Road Warrior, when he walked in on his composer, who was, put in some of the music score, right? And they, generally speaking, work with pretty shoddy copies, prints of the film, and they're generally, I guess, in black and white. But when George stepped into the studio and he saw the images of The Road Warrior in black and white, he just stood there and he thought to himself, hey, God, this is the way the movie ought to have been. This is how it should be. So for like 30 years, he's kind of held on to that. And his first thought for Fury Road was to, why don't we just do this in black and white and release it? But the studio system today, I mean, that's just not going to fly. Not unless you're Steven Spielberg and it's Schindler's List or something, right? But there's been a couple sort of art house type films that have come out recently, I think. But this idea of black and white, I mean, for 30 years he held on to this. And when the studio wouldn't give him a pass on it, they said, well, don't worry. Look, we'll just let you go to Blu-ray. And so I held out. I didn't get my copy of Fury. I saw it in the theater, and it was pretty gorgeous to look like a painting. Some grand artist's painting to look at, but so I held out. I didn't buy the Blu-ray until the promised black and chrome edition came out, and eventually, and if you remember, some of you do because you dropped comments down below, you remember when I've left comments or voicemails on the old 22, I say back in the day when we left voicemails on the 22 Shots and Moods and Horror, and I remember saying, I'm not double dipping at all. I am waiting, I'm holding out, and because for some reason when the original Blu-ray did pop out, it wasn't the black and white, and it was like we were being robbed of something, robbed of a director's intent, his vision. And it took about a year later, I think, and then finally the studio, they finally caved in, and I guess however all that stuff works, and they authorized his black and chrome edition. Now, it's kind of a letdown in a way, only in that we were also sort of hinted at we might get a silent, it might be in silent also, the black and white. And that never materialized. All we really got was the black and. Now, when I say black and white, we're not talking, if you were just to turn your color off on your TV, which I know some of us in the community do because we talk about it from time to time. And that is a great way of watching films, but we're talking saturated by like 90%, where they go in like just like a painter. They go in with their blacks and their heavy grays and their silvers, and they redefine their vision and the scope of those colors. And really, there's an abstract sort of quality that, it's weird. It's abstract in one way, but my take is when you're watching this in color, the color is so saturated, so insane that you're almost left as a viewer looking at this beautiful painting, but you're lost somewhat in all the information. It's an overload. It's like somebody, I heard somebody, you know, this is like blitzkrieg warfare. I mean, this film, when it starts, it just does not let up. I mean, it's insane. Whereas I lost, so heavy saturation. So we're basically talking about them going in and basically treating the film not that much differently than they would, you know, in terms of the colorized version, but they're just using a different set of colors. And it does work. It's like, I think this was the point I was leading up to before. It was like, you know, when you're looking at the colorized version, you're just sitting there and you're just like in awe of looking. But with the black and white, it's like you're invited to step into this world and just get lost into it. It's you're more focused on certain things because you know what? Some of the information that color brings is lost to an extent. But what you gain is, I think, is a little bit better focus on other things that you just don't quite focus on. Well, when you know, in that world of color, especially the vibrancy, it's just the absolutely beautiful texture that is Fury Road in terms of its color. That, you know, film. But this is a different film, and you know, both him and Darabont, I'll try to leave him off to the side for James, but they both share in this, and I'll just say that they both share in the importance. And you know, I think as lovers of film, we ought to be showcasing black and white, the older films, and then celebrating it when directors get to see their visions through. Now, I would love to see like a black and chrome edition, so to speak, of like a, you know, the original '74 Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That vision, that edition would be insane for me. I would love to see it. I've stripped color off on the TV and I watched it black, and I love it. I love it. The original '78 Dawn of the Dead is awesome to watch in black and white. Not every film works like that, but some do. The 2011 The Thing is beautiful to watch in black and white, and the best part is some of that CGI gets washed out. And then, so we're not inundated with that horrible CGI that's in that film. It's much better in black and white, but that's stripped, that's a desaturated look. What Miller offers is a heavy saturated look, and if you have not seen the black and chrome edition of Fury Road, but you love Fury Road, I mean, you've got to see it. There's a video on YouTube that you can actually search up where it's a cross comparison of the saturated look versus non-saturated look in terms of the black and white quality, but then compare it to the color. And it's an amazing to see, to understand that somebody like George Miller would just, and Frank Darabont, I mean, they would prefer these visions for their films. I don't know why the studio are just to let these guys do it without arguing. Whether it comes to the theater in this format or not, it ought to have a quick release, and they ought to be able to do whatever the heck they want to do on the Blu-ray release. If they want a black and white cut, if they want it silent, whatever their vision is, we ought to be able to see the director's original intent of what they want us to share in with them as a director in their vision. And I don't know why it's so hard in this day and age with physical media the way it is, the formatting of Blu-ray, how easy it is to allow us to share in this stuff. And so, anyways, I think I'm just going to let my rambling kind of go. Not so much plot, or we know the characters and the plot of Mad Max and Fury Road. But I really we're just kind of focusing in and ranting a little bit and sharing, I hope, in the director's comments, because both directors offer comments on their released visions, the Broom edition and the black and chrome edition. And both, I mean, if we're not fans of black and white, we at least ought to appreciate that there are directors that we love who do. And we ought to at least attempt to share in that vision from time to time. And who knows, maybe fall in love with it or something. But anyways, so this week 4 of the Schizophrenic Synopsis, we are talking Darabont and Miller, and two not competing visions, but two visions that really go hand in hand with one another. And I can only hope that with the successes of these two editions of these films, that perhaps we're in store with, for something different down the road. That would be, it would be nice, because I love black and white. I love the old stuff, the old Universal stuff. I just love black and white. But man, when you can allow an artist to go in there and actually go to work through that medium, it's It's awesome, man. You've got to check it out. So anyways, that's this week. And as always, we end these things off with Go Bills.